Hi yogis, and today we're going to be doing a shorter class, but hopefully it's something that you probably do in the mornings. It's kind of beginners. Sun salutations, just breaking them down a little bit for you so you begin to maybe understand some really common poses in yoga. So as I said, it's going to be a shorter class. Maybe you can do it in the morning, but make sure that you do think about any injuries, modifications that you can give yourself. I'll be giving modifications and I hope that you enjoy it. So this class is going to be starting in our child's pose, and I just recommend that everyone gets a blanket and puts it under your knees. I also have a cushion and a couple of blocks. You know, you may not use them, but it's always nice to have that alternative if you are just uncomfortable with maybe some postures. So yeah, find yourself a blanket and place it under your knees just to save your knees a little bit. We're going to find child's pose, and that might be with wide legs, or it could be with a little bit of a closer leg. And then we're going to bring our bottom towards our heels, bring our forehead towards the mat. And if you feel like you have this big space here, you can pop your cushion underneath your bum. So what it does is it brings your bum towards your heels, because this is a calming posture. We don't want to feel uncomfortable, and we don't want to feel like we need to be pushing ourselves right now. This is something that we just want to do that's restful, and we're just warming up. So make sure that you're comfortable, and that might mean a cushion under your bum. So coming into child's pose, and we're going to ground ourselves here. So here we might find that it's best to bring our awareness to the ground originally, and where the mat touches our skin, and where we feel the ground lifting us up, because we can feel it in lots of different places in this posture. So we might feel it under our hands, our arms, our legs, our forehead, the backs of our feet, or the fronts of our feet even. If our arms just don't feel right above our head, we can bring them back behind us. It's even a little bit more calming maybe. Find the breath once you've found all those points of contact with the floor. Where is the breath coming from? Is it coming from our nose, or is it coming from our mouth? And try and direct it towards your nose, and just be aware of the kind of breath it is. Is it a shallow breath? Is it a deep breath? What does it sound like? Is it a loud breath? Is there an engagement of the throat with the breath? Or is it a quiet breath, really soft, and you can only feel it, you can't really hear it at all? And here we're just going to bring our awareness back to the breath. Keep the thoughts. There are our thoughts, and they're coming into play. They're there, but they're not necessary. They're not needed. They're just distractions. And what we need to focus on is our breath. And what we force ourselves to do is try and think of nothing, and that is not how it works. We can't think of nothing. So when we think of our thoughts, we're just going to allow them to be there. But we're not going to interact with them, and we're not going to explore them anymore. If we think of something, we acknowledge it, we place it to one side, and then maybe we come back to that breath. Take your time here, and then think about how the breath is maybe slowing down, maybe speeding up. Just coming back to the breath. Question the breath, but don't interact with what you're questioning. You're just seeing, is it fast, is it slow, how does it sound, is it clearer than it was before? Maybe you're uncomfortable, maybe you want to come to a seated position. And so you need to really just concentrate on the breath, and then see how you feel with the breath in that way. You might feel uncomfortable. Do you want to change that, or do you want to sit in that uncomfortable space? You might feel really comfy. And you just kind of acknowledge that and then focus back on the breath. And then we're going to sit in some silence, keeping our attention to the breath. And then begin to really notice the floor underneath us again. Where is our body in contact with the floor? Maybe you can slowly open your eyes, come up. Maybe you sit on the back of your heels, or maybe you come to a seated position for a moment. I'm going to remove the cushion for myself. Take a moment. This is a lovely stretch for your toes, so you can sit back on the toes, stretching them out. Feels really nice. It might feel horrible to you, so explore it. If it's not for you, that's fine. But I find that your toes don't get stretched a lot. We just kind of put them in shoes and don't really think about whether or not they're getting a good stretch to them. Those pinky toes especially, because we kind of forget about them. And then we're going to come forward onto all fours. So in our all fours, we're just going to do a couple of cat-cows. Think about your shoulders being over your wrists and your hips being over your knees. If you want to adjust the cushion, the blanket at all even, and for your knees, that's absolutely fine. You can make it more cushiony. And we're going to breathe here for a moment. We're going to look down at the mat. We're going to just find our breath. And with our cat-cows, when we breathe in, we drop the belly and we lift the tailbone up. And we can roll our shoulders back as well. Our head might lift. If that's not in your neck range though, so I don't recommend it, but if it's something that you feel comfortable doing, your chin might lift. And then you breathe out, you're going to tilt the tailbone down. You begin to engage your core. You tuck the chin. And then we're going to tilt the tailbone again, drop the belly, roll the shoulders back. And roll the shoulders forward, tilt the tailbone down, tuck the chin, look towards maybe the floor, maybe look towards your knees. And again, drop the belly, tilt that tailbone up, lift the chin. Drop the tailbone down, tuck the chin. One more time, lift the chin, tuck the tailbone up, so not tucking it up, but lifting up so our hips are coming towards the sky. Tuck the tailbone down, arch the back. Come back to your neutral position, look down at the mat, and then lift your right hand up, bring it underneath your left armpit. Begin to walk it down, and maybe that arm comes to lie down on the floor, so the forearm's on the floor, and you begin to feel a twist. Breathe here. Maybe this is really good, and maybe you want to go a bit deeper, maybe the shoulder comes towards the floor a bit more. You bend with the left arm here, so that you're not super tight and high up. You can bend with that left arm, so you twist a little bit further. Come back. Bring the left hand and bring it underneath the right the right armpit space. Then you begin to bend that right arm, twisting towards the right side. Breathe here. Come all the way back up. Push with that right hand and you come back to all fours. So we're going to do I call it kind of floor salutation. It's really gentle, and we're going to sit back on our heels. So yeah, we're going to sit back on our feet. If that's not comfortable, maybe there's a space here. You can put a cushion under your bum, and you can keep it there throughout the whole of this little practice, this little sun salutation that we're doing. But I'm going to sit back on my heels because I find that completely comfortable. If it's not comfortable at all, especially for your knees, you can just stay seated, stay up. So you can stay upright and not go back onto your heels unless you're going into child's pose. So we're going to lift our hands up, and we're all going to lift up. We're going to keep our arms nice and wide, so we're not bringing them together too much, nice and wide. And then bring them all the way down. Sit back to child's pose. Come up to all fours. Strong arms here. Do a cat-cow, so bringing the tailbone up, drop the belly, lift the head. Breathe in and out. Tilt the tailbone down. Come to an arched back. Tuck the chin possibly. And then from here, sit back into your child's pose. And then come back up all the way. So we're going to do that twice more. Something that we're going to now explore is the breath. So when we breathe in, we're coming up. And when we breathe out, we're going down. Because the way our body works with our breathing is that you want the expanding. When you breathe in, your belly's expanding, your lungs are expanding. We want to be expanding. When we're kind of contracting our body more, we're breathing out because we're engaging our core, and we're coming back into that kind of more tightly wound space, but we're letting go of a lot as well. So, breathing in, lift up, bring your arms up. Breathing out, bring the hands all the way down, come back into child's pose. Breathing in, lift up and out. Breathe in, drop the belly. And breathing out, arch the back. Breathing in, come back to a neutral position. And breathing out, come back into child's pose. Stay here for 3 breaths. Nice long breaths. And lift back up. Your hands can come up, or they can just stay down. We'll do it one more time, and now really think about the motion with the breath. So if it's not something, you can kind of think of one thing at a time. I really understand that. So we want to try and bring those together in yoga, because without the breath, the movements are just another exercise, and yoga is much more than just an exercise. We're going to sit back on our heels again, and then lift the hands up, lift our bum up, lift all the way up, come down into child's pose, breathe out. Breathe in, come up to all fours, breathe out, preparing yourself. Breathe in, drop the belly, tilt the tailbone up, roll the shoulders back. Strong arms, breathing out. Tilt the tailbone down, arch the back, tuck the chin. Breathing in, come back to your neutral position. Breathing out, come back to child's pose. Breathe in, lift yourself all the way up, maybe lift those arms one more time and bring them back down. Take a moment here, see how you feel maybe comparatively to the beginning of the practice. So you should feel nice and warm now. And we're going to continue our exploration of sun salutations with much more of a traditional outlook. Not that traditional though, very modified. So you can leave the blanket on the floor, because then when you come back onto the floor throughout the practice and throughout the little flow of sun salutation, then you have it there, and you feel like, especially if you feel like your knees just need that padding. Otherwise you can move it. I'm going to keep it there, so but make sure that when you have it there, it's not going to be sliding about under your feet, so just make sure it's in the right place. So we're going to make our way up to the front of the mat standing. You can do that any way you want to, making your own way up there, whatever you need to get all the way up. And then here we're going to just come into our Tadasana. So our Tadasana is the place where we start in sun salutations. It is a really lovely, secure place, and if you just feel like you need a moment of grounding yourself, it's such a grounding posture, and it brings us back to the beginning of the flow for this. So we're going to come into Tadasana at the front of the mat, open out the palms, close the eyes here, and we're going to just notice where our spine is in space. We can't see it, it's behind us, we can't see it. So we're going to just think about what our hips feel like and see if we can move them around. See how the weight transfers onto the feet in different ways. Your palms might be open here, and you can feel the air come to the palms. And then find a place which feels relatively neutral, where you feel like the weight is evenly distributed on your feet, and then work your way up. So where your hips are, your shoulders should be relatively parallel to your hips. Maybe they feel like they're coming forward, maybe you can bring them back and down and relax them. So once you pull them down, don't be tightly down, just allow them to lift if they need to, ever so slightly. And you should be in a place which feels very neutral with our spine. Make sure the chin feels parallel to the floor. You can keep your eyes closed here, and we'll find just a gentleness. You might find a little bit of a movement in your body as well. That's very normal, that you're standing straight, but it does feel like there's slight bit of a sway, which I think is very natural, because we're very we're like, it's a little bits of wind, a little bit of draft in the room that might knock us a little bit from side to side. And a really good way to stay straight is by engaging our glutes and our core a little bit, so that we have that engagement and we're nice and strong. So I've known people, and I've known myself, to fall over into Tadasana, because sometimes standing on 2 feet is hard. It doesn't necessarily always work out. And it feels silly at the time, but it's just because sometimes we just don't stand like this, and we do need that engagement of our body still. Find the breath here. And then you can open your eyes when you're ready. We're going to lift the arms up one time. So I'm going to bring the arms up overhead, and then try and bring them down so the elbows come down towards the shoulder, to be parallel to the shoulders. And this is just our cactus arms. If you can bring your hands all the way up, maybe explore that. Otherwise we're just going to keep it quite wide. Bring the arms all the way down. Hands to the waist. We're going to do our modified lovely sun salutation. Hopefully it's nice and calming for you, as well as a little bit pushing yourself, but it's not going to be too rough, hopefully, especially if you're doing this in the morning. We don't want to have a full-on workout right when we wake up necessarily. Bend the knees. We're going to come forward, hinging from the hips into our forward fold. We're going to lift up a little bit so our back becomes flat. And then come all the way down. Drop the hands towards the floor, and if you can, step back to all fours. Otherwise, make your own way there. So bring one knee down, then the other. Make sure that your shoulders are over your wrists and your hips are over your knees. And then bring maybe the knees a little bit back. And we're going to bring it so our thighs come towards the floor, and then our whole body makes its way onto the floor. Turn your head to one side so your cheek's on the floor. Push up into a baby cobra. So when we push up, we're lifting just the chest and the head. Breathe in and out here. Come all the way back down. And when we do that, we want to make sure that we engage our glutes. Then we're going to lift up. We're going to push back up into our all fours. So that might be a little bit slower for you. So you can bring your hands back a little bit just to make sure that you have enough room to get back up into all fours. From all fours, tuck your toes under, bring your bum towards your heels, lift up to downward facing dog. If this doesn't feel right this morning or during your day, just come into child's pose. But if you're in downward facing dog, push with the hands, the hips come up high, and pedal the knees. Engage the core. Maybe feel it in your hamstrings, maybe you don't, maybe you feel it in your armpit space, maybe you don't. And then we're going to slowly walk all the way back up to center. Try not to slip on your, not to center, to the front of the mat. Try not to slip on your blanket. Stay in your forward fold, nice bent legs here. Then lift all the way up to Tadasana again. Open out the palms. Take a moment here. So that was our first kind of sun salutation. We'll do another one, but again it's going to be modified. But obviously if this is something that you've already done before, you can put little, like your own movements into it if you need a little bit more movement. Obviously you could just dog follow me as well. So we're going to open up the palms again. Try and just see if there's anything different about our Tadasana. Then bring your hands to the waist. Open up your eyes if they're closed. Hinge forward, bend the knees, forward fold. Maybe you lift up a little bit so you look beyond the edge of your mat at this point. Like you could balance a cup of coffee on your back and it would not spill. Bring your hands all the way down, bend the knees really generously, step back, make your way to all fours. And then here, we're going to come forward again. So bring your knees back a little bit. Bring yourself so you come all the way back down to the floor, so your belly's on the floor. Push with your hands, lift up to your baby cobra. So here, you want to make sure that you engage your glutes. But it's almost like you're like using your back muscles so much. You're not hardly pushing with your hands, and you could lift your hands up. Then come down. Bring yourself back to all fours by pushing with your hands. You could come back to child's pose here, or you could tuck your toes under, bring your bum towards your feet, lift up, downward facing dog, look towards those feet. Begin to walk your way up towards the front of the mat. Bend those knees nice and generously, no straight legs. Hands to the waist, lift back up. From here we're going to do chair pose. So make sure those feet are hip distance apart. We're going to drop the bum down. Breathe in and out. So when we look down, our toes, we can still see them. We're engaging our legs. And our head is lifted, so again our chin's parallel with the floor. We're looking beyond our mat, and then we're going to lift back up. We're going to step the left leg back first, so we're doing warrior one on the right side. So with warrior one, we want our hips to face towards the short edge of the mat. We're going to turn that back foot in a little bit, and if this is still uncomfortable for your hips, just feel free to like step the back foot out a little bit, just because, especially for ladies, I think it's the same thing for men really though, is that we need to make sure that there's enough space to actually turn our hips. So we're going to bend that front knee. These are our warrior one legs, and then our arms can come up and they're going to open wide back into our cactus arms. So Our elbows are more, they're not completely parallel, but they're close to being parallel with our shoulders. Open out the palms. Spread the fingertips. Feel a little bit of energy in the fingertips. Bring them back to your waist. Step back to the front of the mat. We're going to step the right leg back now. Make sure that you adjust yourself so that your hips are facing the front edge of your mat. Bend that front knee. Feel the edge of your back foot still like grounding into the floor. And then lift your arms when you feel ready. Open them out. Kind of cactus arms. A little bit of like a more kind of freestyle cactus, you know? Feel the energy of your fingers pulling away from each other. Expanding the palms. Hands back to the waist. Come back to all fours. So back into Tadasana, we've really worked our whole body. We're just going to do one more Tadasana just to see how we feel. So open out the palms, you can close your eyes here. And then just feel the way that that body feels now. Maybe it feels stronger. Maybe it feels more steady. Maybe there's no like wave into your body, and it might feel really nice. Bring your eyes to open, and then we are going to sit down on the floor. So you can bring a cushion to the floor as well. Make your own way down. I'm just gonna pop a swap. So make your own way down to the floor, and we're going to just come into staff pose. So our staff pose is Dandasana. It's just a really good posture to do when you need to come back to a settling seated position. If this feels a bit uncomfortable under the knees because they're straight, you can take your blanket that we had earlier and you can roll it up and bring it under your knees, and then it might feel better. Then you can have your legs straight. Otherwise, if you're fine, then you don't have to have the blanket. If you have a block as well, that's really good to go under your hips. And we're going to make sure our feet are hip distance apart, so we're not bringing our feet together, we're bringing them away, apart from each other. You can also just have a bend in your knees. We're going to think about our spine, so our shoulders are roughly over our hips, and we're lifting our chest, we're opening up here, we're not caving in. Lifting up, the chin is like parallel with the floor, and we're going to just breathe here for a moment in our Dandasana. Try and flex your toes towards you, so they're pulling towards you. If anyone did ballet classes, I'm sure it's like I did it in 2004, and we did nice toes, naughty toes, and so these are naughty toes, but we want them, so our feet are coming towards us. We don't want them pointed, we want them flexed so that we have an engagement of the foot. So breathe here, we want our toes expanding away from each other, and we're going to bring the right foot towards us, so we're bending the knee. It doesn't have to be next to the leg, it can be away from the leg. We're gonna see how far we can get it towards us. Don't pull, tug, just see how far it fit, like how far you feel comfortable bringing your leg, rather than yanking it up here. It might just be better to just let the leg decide rather than using the force of your arms. So bring your left hand to meet your right knee. Your right hand's going to come behind you. You're going to push up so you've got a nice strong back, so you're not collapsing back into this arm. And you're going to lift up and twist round. And as you lift up, you're breathing in, and as you twist, you breathe out. And then come back to center. Bring the right leg down, the left leg comes up. We're going to then bring our hand to our left knee. Bring our left hand behind us. Breathe in, so straightening that spine, and as we breathe out, we're twisting back. Try not to turn your neck too much. You want to be kind of in a kind of middle ground with our neck. Let it go naturally where it feels right to go. down, back to center. Bring your left leg back to meet the right leg. We're going to do just one forward fold here. So bring your hand by your thigh and slowly walk down. Feel a stretch possibly in your hamstrings. When it comes a bit too intense, feel free to back off or maybe just stay there. Nice long breaths, one more. Come all the way up, and then from here make your way onto the floor, and you can have your cushion under your head. Come all the way down to the floor. And then we're going to bring our knees towards our chest. Flex the feet maybe again and point the feet. See how that feels, your nice toes and your naughty toes. And then do maybe some ankle circles. One direction, then the other direction. Take a moment here. And then stretch out the left leg. Bring that right knee towards you as far as you can get it. And bring the left leg back. Bring that the left leg close as you can get it. Right leg stretches out. Bringing itself back. And then twist from side to side. So rather than forcing yourself into a deep twist, just rock from side to side so you feel a slight twist in your spine, but your shoulders are staying on the floor. Taking a moment, maybe you feel that massage at the bottom of your spine, and then bring the feet down, bring the hands down, close your eyes and come into your Shavasana. If you want to, you can take your blanket and kind of spread it out and have it on top of you, because sometimes the weight's nice, but sometimes also it can be cold. So both things can be really comforting. Open up the palms, close the eyes, find the breath, and begin to relax the whole body down towards the floor, so you can feel the connection of the floor underneath you. And just give yourself a reminder that you did really well today. You did a practice, and that's really important. You've done your yoga practice for the day, and you can take it forward into the rest of your day. You can either feel good because you moved your body, or maybe you can just take into account that you breathed and you noticed your breath, and you can then bring the noticing your breath to the rest of your day, especially if you feel wound up in any way. You can bring that attention to your breath again. So here we're going to bring that attention to our breath. Remind ourselves that if we feel stressed, just coming back to the breath allows us and reminds us that we are human and that we are alive. In yoga, our breath is the prana, which is a Sanskrit word for life and life force and an energy, and the breath goes all the way through our body as it is a life force in its own right, and it keeps us alive. And it travels through the body to give our body energy, to give it food, oxygen. And notice the breath through the nose and where it travels to through the body. Maybe it comes to the lungs, maybe you feel it in the belly. Just noticing where it goes after that. attention to come to your fingertips, your toes. And then you can bring your hands overhead, if you have enough room, and stretch your whole body, stretch your toes, stretch your fingers, your spine, and then allow everything to relax again. Bring your knees up and turn to your favourite side of your body. Take a moment here, don't open your eyes quite yet, and then lift all the way up to seated. Hands come to the heart centre. Take a breath. And just thank yourself for being here. I thank you for being here, but thank your body, thank your spirit, thank your brain, and thank your heart space for just getting on the mat, looking after yourself. And hopefully you take that forward into your day.